I'm better than okay. Okay. Good morning, Wellspring. Good morning. Oh, that was pretty good. Can you be more? Good morning. Oh, isn't that wonderful energy? I love that. My name is Judy Bethman, and I'm a part of your Sunday service team for June 18th. Okay. Early birds meet Sunday mornings at 9:30 via Zoom. Link is in the weekly email and on the website. Upcoming speakers for June. The last Sunday of June, well, today we have Bram. The last Sunday of June is Randy Granger. Our June get-together is a meal out at Ruby Tuesdays, 12:30, following the church service, Sunday, June 25th. If you have not signed up but want to go eat with us, there's the sign-up sheet in the social hall. The Thursday group, are you still meeting? Okay. At 7 p.m. each Thursday. Each week is a different speaker and discussion afterwards. Who's speaking this week? He forgot. Okay. The mystery speaker. Okay. You can join us here in the social hall or on Zoom. Contact Edward or Cleona for more information. The New Thought Ladies Luncheon is Thursday, this Thursday, right? June 22nd, 11:30 at CSL. It is a potluck. The board met this past Wednesday, and we decided our social event for July would be an afternoon at the theater. And the play is Queen Victoria in the Highlands. It's July 16th at 2:30 p.m. at the Black Box, and $15, but seniors get a bargain at $12 a ticket. The sign-up sheet for this event is in the social hall, and we'll go out to dinner following the performance if you prefer. So that should be an exciting time, and it's cool because it's indoors, right? And lastly, our prayer team remains ready to serve and support you. You may submit a request via our webpage or give it to Edward. Our prayer team meets virtually Tuesday afternoon at 4:15 to pray with you. Please consider sitting in your quiet space during that time. We all know we are one in spirit, and the energy of prayer knows no limits. Mother, Father, Great Spirit, the Alpha and Omega, we invite you to come into our hearts, into this sanctuary, into the words that we speak, into the music that we sing and play. For we know we are one part of the great flow, the collective unconscious. The way the world works, we can tap into. One person can change that world if that person wishes, and if the Spirit wishes as well. We thank you for being a part of this service, and we bless each one sitting here in the sanctuary and through technology on Zoom, and so it is. All right, please rise for our Song of Joy, Spirit, written by Doug Adamz.
It's all about spirit, spirit, spirit from now on. It's all about spirit, spirit, spirit from now on. It's all about spirit. If you listen, you can hear it. Spirit from now on. It's all about joy, joy, joy from now on. I got all about joy. Okay, we'll come back to the other. Joy from now on. Outside the storm is raging, we got joy at our foundation. The joy from now on. Now it's all about love. It's about love. Love from now on. It's all about love. Love from now on. It's all about the love from within and from above. Love from now on. Spirit, 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 spirit from now on. It's all about spirit, spirit, spirit from now on. It's all about the spirit. If you listen, you can hear it. Spirit from now on. It's all about the spirit. If you listen, you can hear it. The spirit from now on. You can say that again. The spirit from now on. One more time. The spirit from now on. Oh, yeah, this one had it right. Okay, we'll get it all coordinated here.
We have one Sunday left, Doug.
As long as it has the spirit. That's
You
okay.
betcha. You betcha. All right. Thank you. And let us read together our vision, mission, and affirmation. Our vision: to elevate spiritual consciousness in our world. Our mission: to support individual spiritual quests through celebration, study, counsel, loving fellowship, and service. Our affirmation: today I pause to reflect and know the divinity that is at my core. I feel the divine flow through me and filling every part of my being to overflowing with love, joy, peace, wisdom, and abundance. Of this I am grateful, and so it is. Well, Doug, I hate to tell you, but you're up next. You just sat down. We welcome back Doug Adamz.
Well, Father's Day. I thought, well, I should do something for Father's Day, and I thought about it, and I realized that you know, I've lived long enough and met enough people and talked to enough people and heard their stories to realize that I had a very good father. And it seemed normal at the time, in the era that I grew up, in the place where I grew up. Most of my friends, my close circle of friends, had good dads, men that were willing to shoulder that responsibility and live it. My dad used to like to tell stories. He told stories about his life and about his childhood. And it's strange when you're a child for your father to tell you a story about his childhood. It's pretty much impossible to picture your dad as a little kid. So these stories kind of took on a patina of like Grimm's fairy tales or Aesop's fables or Uncle Remus. Couldn't really picture him living this stuff. But then he got older and started repeating these stories more frequently. You know how it is as people can get older and start repeating themselves. Yeah. So then he got older and started repeating these stories more frequently. And you know how it is. Oh, this happened at an awkward time because this started happening right at an age for me when I already knew everything.
And nobody could tell me anything about anything. And so that was an awkward time in our relationship. But surprisingly, he kept growing older and started repeating the stories even more frequently till he would tell me a story that he had just finished telling me. But surprise, I was getting older too. And at this point, I realized that I wasn't going to be hearing these stories forever. And so I started paying really close attention and trying to memorize them and, listen to every word. So this is one that he told me, and I chose it because there's something in it that even though he was just a child, there's something about that crystallizes a little bit of his character, and maybe what it was that made him such a great dad. And I'm including a little song that people sang in those days. In fact, according to my father, the only song he ever heard my grandfather sing. I'll include that just to kind of put it in that time and place. And that song goes like this. This story took place on a farm, the family farm, in Hydro, Oklahoma, or just outside of Hydro, Oklahoma. The year, to my amazement, was about 1912 or 1913, and my father at that time was 4 years old. It was New Year's Day, and he was told that he had to go, along with his older sister Irene and his older brother Ray. They all had to go down to the neighbor's house, the Workingtons. That was about a half a mile away. A long walk for a 4-year-old. But he got to ride their old black horse part of the way, a horse that really was named Nellie. When they got there, they played outside for a while till it got too cold, and then the Workingtons invited them in, gave them some marbles, some old catalogs they got to cut the pictures out of, and they fed them lunch, a German lunch. After a while, they got the phone call to go back home. So they started the long walk back to the farm. And when they got there, they saw a buggy and a horse out front that anybody in Caddo County would recognize as being Dr. Henke's. So they were worried that maybe somebody was sick. They go into the house, and sure enough, there's Mama lying in bed and everybody else standing around, and Dr. Henke over in the corner with something wrapped in a blanket on his lap. Well, Irene and Ray and Verdun was my dad, just stood there with their mouths hanging open until Dr. Henke says, "Well, don't you want to come over and say hello to your new little sister?" Irene and Ray were the first ones to get there, being the elders. But pretty soon my dad got in line and was looking down into that funny-looking little red face. Dr. Henke says, "Verdun, what'll you give me for this little girl?" And my dad reached into his pocket, pulled out 2 marbles, a nickel, and a penny, and held it out to the doctor, and he says, "I'll give you all I got." Well, old Dan Tucker was a mighty man, washed his face in a frying pan, combed his hair with a wagon wheel, died with a toothache in his heel. Get out of the way, old Dan Tucker, you're too late to stay for supper. Supper's over, breakfast cooking, old Dan Tucker standing looking. Happy Father's Day.
You know this little spot right here on her mouth? I think that's called a philtrum, isn't it? Right?
Yes.
Okay. And the natives believe that when a child is born, right before it comes out, the angels put their finger there and say, "Shh, don't tell." Isn't that cool? Each child is a light of God, right? Well, I can't remember, but one time I gave a talk about how pets are spiritual teachers for us, and not only companions, but they're also lights from God with paws or fins or whatever you have. In Science of Mind, how many of you read Murphy's Dogma? 2 people. Okay, well, Murphy is a human whisperer, and he watches over his human, Reverend Dr. Bob Lucken. And each Science of Man magazine, he has his dogma in there. So I'm going to read this month's dogma, Pause with Perspective. When I heard my people talking about the light within the shadows, I asked myself what I know about this topic. I know what shadows are, and I know what light is. I don't think you can separate the two. When I'm in a well-lit place and close my eyes, light is replaced with darkness. For a few seconds after I close my eyes, light appears around the edges of the dark, just like shadows appear around the edges of light. A friend of mine told me light and dark are 2 sides of the same coin. The face side is the light side, or the side where the bacon is, and the other side is where the hidden dreams, wishes, and desires express themselves. He further explained there are things you can't see with your eyes open. I think he's right. Sometimes I close my eyes and dream about bacon. After I open my eyes, I quickly forget my dream, but I can't help but notice how hungry I am. I think what people call the shadow side of life is where my hunger for bacon lives, but not where bacon is served. Some light and dark are inseparable. Some of the most influential and powerful things in life can't be seen in the light, only felt with the heart. Without darkness, we don't feel love's radiant light. And now it gives me great pleasure to present to you Reverend Bram.
As I've said many times, thank God for Apple, because at the ripe old age of 58, I can't see my writing anymore. But I can make this as big as I want it to be. So, good morning, everyone. Namaste. So good to be here with you all, everybody here and everybody at home. Happy Father's Day. Whew. Don't worry, I'll get through this. Doug just made me feel. Music's supposed to make you feel. Mm-hmm. Because it shouldn't be this hard. But the great thing about Father's Day, greatest thing I've ever done, greatest thing I've ever done was becoming a dad. So thank you, Babe. Thank you, Brenna. And thank you to their mama. Nothing like having an ex-wife here, you haven't screwed up too much if you can get the ex-wife to come to church. So very grateful for that. Very grateful for that. All right, I'll get it back together here. I guess it's a good thing when you feel. Probably too much of the time I'm trying to push away when I don't want to feel. The theme for this month's Science of Mind was embracing self-care. And I just thought it was too much of a coincidence not to talk about self-care yet again. I did it last August. I did it this past February. So this is self-care part 3. And, I normally read through the Science of Mind magazines looking for inspiration. I read all the articles looking at stuff. And while the ones for this month were great, what I'm going to be talking about is an article from last month by Reverend Dr. Jim Lockard titled The Shadow, Healing Through Revealing. And that's what's inspired me to share today's message. And it reminds me of one of my favorite prayers, which goes, Lord, reveal what needs to be revealed, heal what needs to be healed, lead me where you need me, and guide me in ways that I can totally understand. Reveal what needs to be revealed. You see, what we repress into shadow is what we project onto others. My mom used to tell me that the sin that we see in others, the wrong that we see in others, the judgment that we see in others is our own issue, our shadow projected onto them. Listen to this quote from Ernest Holmes in Science of Mind, because I'm going to refer to it over and over today. It says, you and I could not criticize unless the criticism was in us. You will see nothing in anybody else unless you have it in you to see it. You are what you say, and what you say is what you must become. You cannot see a thing in me, but what you see in yourself first. So, we all have shadow aspects, and we project them onto others. And when somebody else triggers our behavior and our shadows start to come out, we deny that we're the ones that are doing this. It's got to be somebody else's fault or somebody else's problem that we feel this way. But Lockard says if we don't develop an awareness of this, that we'll continue to do it. It's an unconscious process. And the only way to become aware is to notice how we feel emotionally. I feel it right here in my solar plexus. He says nearly all, if not all, conflict in human relations is due to this unconscious projection of denial of shadow. So all of the tools that we would use, praying, meditating, affirmations, although essential spiritual practices will not penetrate the shadow at this level of our unconscious mind. What we have repressed continues to be active now in how we respond to the world. And it's not easy when we're having to deal with this stuff. Having our shadow aspects revealed is not pleasant. And it's the unpleasant stuff that I'm going to talk about today, the poopy stuff, if you will. Perhaps this is why so many of us choose or we're taught to only see the light side of our being. And all that's okay. But by avoiding that pain, we're not going to get to the full growth and the full healing process. And, I believe that I've been very successful in affirming and manifesting and making good things, using new thought to create stuff in my life, but not fully dealing with some of my own shadow issues has prevented me from a full healing process, which when you're younger isn't a big deal, but as you start to get older, stuff starts to hurt, and you wonder what that is. I mean, I just literally found out through a blood test the other day that it doesn't matter what medicine I'm taking, all the supplements, all these different things I'm doing, yoga and working out, if I'm not right between here and here, it's not good. And my blood work showed that. There was literally a film around my blood cells, and my doctor was telling me, dude, you got to get your mind right. This stuff I'm giving you is not going to penetrate into the mitochondria, the engine of your cell, unless you get your mind right. Which is the politest way I can, well, we're in church. I'm just going to say keeping my mind right. Never mind. But The repressed aspects, deep in our unconscious, remain unaffected by the activities of praying and affirming and stuff like that. Lockhart says it's like paving a road without filling the potholes. No matter how good the pavement is, what is underneath will continue to affect how the surface performs. That's so true. Got to deal with the foundation. Some of our New Thought teachers say if it's not coming easy, well, it's just not for you. But Lockhart says, no, there's going to be a struggle. And the struggle is definitely present when we seek true change. You know, Carl Jung wrote in The Philosophical Tree, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Jung also wrote that the agenda of our soul, as we were talking about, Doug, is to realize and express our true nature fully in our lives. Our soul wants to be the most authentic version of ourselves, an expression of the divine, and will accept nothing else. Edward was talking about, you know, I mentioned the accumulated shadow obstructs the actualization or the full potential of the soul. Edward said, yeah, it's like the windshield wipers, you know, the bugs hit and stuff like that. And you thought, well, I'm going to leave that one, but I need to get rid of that one. No, well, we got to get rid of all that stuff. And to use another analogy, someday you're the windshield and some days you're the bug. I've been the bug for a little bit while now. Little bit too long. So in dealing with this stuff, it's good to find somebody that can help you reintegrate your full self. And it's best if they know what they're doing, and it's best if they've dealt with their own shadow work and can help you through the process. It's our fear-based false beliefs, those memes that I've talked about before. I'm not good enough, tall enough, pretty enough, smart enough. Those are the things that we have to dissolve, and even bigger ones. And that's the stuff that's been repressed for a while. That's the stuff that needs to be transformed. You know, in last month's Science of Mind, there was an article in there by Kelly Robbins, and she states that we grow more spiritually when we do things wrong than when we do them right. She invites us to explore the uncomfortable side of spirituality and to heal, healing our wounds and learning to love all aspects of ourselves, not just the good stuff, but the stuff that's not so pretty, especially the wounded parts. Allows our light to shine brighter. See, our darkness is not evil. It's merely a part of us that's yet to be illuminated. I found a quote from A Wrinkle in Time that says, the wound is where the light comes in for your healing. And I thought that was very good. It's in the challenging times that we grow, as another person put it. But I get a number of readings, and I save stuff that inspires me. I'll save it on my phone. I'll take a picture of something. I'll copy it, paste it, and I put it in a document, and I save it for every year. But as I was doing research for this, I came across a quote that Baylor gave me when he was in high school. He'll be turning 24 in a couple of months. So this was back when he was in high school. Baylor said, you will never learn anything about yourself while you're comfortable. Wise young man. Wise, wise, wise. Not so young anymore. So have you been buried by your challenge or have you been planted? It's the same thing. The only difference is your perspective. Are you going to let your mess become your message? Your test become your testimony? Even in one of my favorite Psalms, the 23rd Psalm, it says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. It's not talking about death. It's talking about the shadow of death. The Bible doesn't speak of death. It talks about the shadow, which is our false belief. And that false belief is our belief that we could be separate from God. The lack of the presence or the understanding of God present in our lives. The shadow is something that needs to be faced and worked through, not something that's permanent or that should be feared. You know, I've delivered many messages, as I've said here before, on manifesting prosperity and abundance. And I think I've become pretty proficient about that. And it just seems that the universe continues to serve up to me on a platinum platter other stuff. It's like, Brambo, you better get your mind right. I need more peace of mind, life balance, better spiritual self-care. And the reason I know this is because I'm still having issues. I believe the lesson is going to be there until we learn it, and then I fall asleep and forget it, and it's time to wake back up and deal with it again. I mean, I even mentioned in February, how is it that I've become so afraid to face my own fear? You know, I have a pretty good hallucination about myself. I'm not afraid about a whole lot, and I'm tired of living that way. I'm tired of living fear. That's just another four-letter word that I don't like, but I'm working on it. Neville Goddard said, control your feelings to control the outcome you desire in your life. Well, I haven't been controlling things very well. Boy, is that an understatement. If you recall when I spoke in February, I have been letting my thought process take me down to the rabbit hole to the extent to where it's been physically manifesting itself in my body. Both of my knees swelled up the size of volleyballs, couldn't walk, had to have surgery on one knee. I believe it was my thought process that helped me take a nice little tumble down a mountain and separate my shoulder. Still dealing with some of the fun of that. But as I started researching for this message and the preparation for this, I was reminded, I came across some shadow work that I did about 4 years ago with an amazing coach guide. I just call her my angel. And it was like opening a Christmas present. I was just like, oh, there it is. There's my answers. I spent about 3 or 4 months, once a week, working with an amazing individual. And she helped me work through a bunch of stuff. Now, I know everybody in here thinks I'm perfect. And for those of you at home, everybody's laughing now, especially my son. But here's a few of the challenges that I was working on back 4 years ago, and apparently I haven't learned all these lessons, but see if any of these sound familiar. Judgment, anger, fear, enabling, codependence, unforgiveness, and the insistence on being correct even though when I know I am. Anybody else have that problem, or is it just me? So those are just a few of the things that I was going through. So what I'm going to share with you over the next 3 hours is, just kidding, or some of my session notes. I took copious notes by hand, something that my generation still knows how to do. And then I typed them all up because it just put them in another time. And I just started reading through these and I'm like, oh, it was like just peeling off the layers. Okay, that's where I need to go. Some of these are quotes, some of them are stories, but they're all lessons. Hopefully they're somewhat tied together, but here it goes. Our purpose, we all have the same purpose, but we have different missions. And our purpose is to strive towards our own perfection, and that perfection is the absence of negative emotion. Perfection is the absence of negative emotion. Our position of power, our position of centeredness, is being in the present moment. And that being in the present moment is being in a state of love. My teacher, my guide, I'd call her more of a scientist. Not religious, but think of all of the times that you're going to hear me use the word love over the next few minutes. My purpose is to choose to stay in the presence of positive emotion. She says that negative emotions have a root cause in fear, positive emotions have a root cause in love. Y'all have heard me talk about the word sin before. It's an old archery term, and I've talked about that. I talk about missing the mark, but I never talked about what the mark was. The bullseye is love. Anytime I'm not choosing love, I'm missing the mark. That's the other part of that story that I forget to keep telling. Anytime we choose anything other than love, we're missing the mark. This, as my business group calls, is a quote. They said, boy, Bram, that's a writer downer. So if there's anything to remember today, listen to this one. She says, you fall into the energy of the person you judge. You rise to the level of energy of the person or situation that you forgive. Forgiveness is the only thing that wipes the slate clean. I've done a talking here on Ho'oponopono, the ancient Hawaiian forgiveness technique. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Even Jesus said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. She told me to be more Christ-like instead of trying to follow Jesus. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes unto the Father but by me. But he wasn't asking us to follow him. He was asking us to be like him. His energy, his thought process, his vibration, the words he used. She said reaction is negative, responsive positive. Not that a red-headed Leo with former anger issues has a problem with this, but she said, he who angers loses. Duh. Whew. Yeah, that's a perpetual life lesson for me. She taught me about the serenity prayer. We all know that, but I like Peggy Shin's version of the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom the centeredness to know that I am the difference. I just thought that was beautiful when I heard Peggy say that. She told me to, instead of judging somebody harshly, to be kind and say to myself, pobrecito. Means poor little boy. Pobrecito. They're doing the best they can with what they have. Well, that suspends judgment. Why do we want to do that? Because you fall to the level of the person you judge, you rise to the level of the person you forgive. You know, it's another version of what else could be true. One of the greatest gifts, other than my children, that Stacy gave me, she got tired of living with that redheaded Leo with anger issues. And I would get upset from somebody cutting me off in traffic. And she's like, Bram, what else could be true? I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you mean what else could be true? That idiot just cut me off in traffic. But the thing is, I'd be like that when I go to bed at night. Just, which obviously was caused by that person, nothing else that was going on in my life. I said, what do you mean what else could be true? She said, what do you love the most? I said, my kids. She said, what if that guy that just cut you off was on a road trip for a week, just flew home, and is trying to get to his daughter's recital? To his son's swim practice, whatever it is, what can you do? What can you hallucinate to suspend judgment? Maybe y'all don't have judgment, that four-letter word that I have in my life, but holy cow, what a gift. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can be a blessing or I can be a curse. I get to choose right up here, blessing or criticism. She said, you shall know the truth and it shall set you free. And the truth is remembering your true identity, that we are made in the image and likeness of our Creator. That's the truth. Anything less than love is missing the mark. Self-love is love thy neighbor as thyself, but we got to learn to forgive and love ourselves more so that we can give more. She said, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and all else will be added unto you. And remembering that the kingdom of heaven is within us. All our answers are in here. It's like this. It's not out here. It's all within. But she did remind me that for a lot of us, our shadows come from trauma of childhood. And she asked me to make 3 promises to my 3-year-old self. And she gave me these promises. Now, when I was a little boy growing up, my whole family and extended family called me Brambo. And she said, Brambo, I want you to make these promises to your 3-year-old self. One, I will love you unconditionally. 2, I'll always protect you. 3, I'll remind you of our true identity, that we're made in the image and likeness of God. So, since Brambo no longer needs to be a victim, I don't have to have the victimizer around to protect him. This helps integrate my angry lower vibration, that I'm doing a pretty good job moving away from, into my higher being, moving out of aggression, anger, judgment, into assertiveness, power, and discernment. Because folks, at 58 years old, who's driving the bus of my life? Me or Brambo? And geez Louise, you better hope it's me. I don't know some days. She talked about a pinch theory. You know, you get pinched, you get hurt. How many times are you going to allow yourself to get pinched or get hurt before you keep people from hurting you? Our anger, our violence level goes up. It's directly proportional to how many times we let people hurt us. She said people often say that mass murderers were the nicest people they knew. Well, they were the type of person who allowed themselves to be pinched or hurt over and over again until they snapped. Whatever uncenters you is what's pinching you. And that pinch is our own imperfection, our shadow, something that we need to work on. It's our weak link, and when that's revealed, at least we know what we need to work on. She obviously didn't think I was going to get all this at once, nor would I be perfect, so she gave me a 5-step recentering process. Number 1, realize as quickly as possible that I became uncentered. My solar plexus tells me that. So I know I got uncentered, 1. Number 2, I have to ask, who did I just judge? Who did I judge? Number 3, instantly forgive that person that I judged. Pobrecito, they're doing the best they can. Number 4, instantly forgive myself. And number 5, get centered again. Take a deep breath and say to myself, present moment, state of love and light. Present moment, state of love and life. Get back to the present. No self-judgment. Love Brambo and forgive him. Never feel guilty about any past actions. I got to love myself more than anyone else, or I can't give you what I don't have. I got to give up negative self-talk, self-victimization. She said that the opposite of fear of love, the opposite of judgment of love, the opposite of guilt is love, the opposite of shame is love. She said instead of getting angry and cursing, which I never do, she said, just say to yourself, cool. Or my NLP master teacher used to say, isn't that interesting? Just interesting. Live centered from the inside out, not the outside in. She said, tell me what you avoid, tell me what you fear, and I'll tell you what you're going to create more of in your life. Whatever uncenters me is revealing my shadow and what I need to work on. So then she gave me 4 steps to heal. Learn self-love, heal yourself first. You can't offer what you don't have. Number 2, take total responsibility for your words, thoughts, actions, and demand the same from others. This eliminates blame and codependency because she says codependency is an addiction to fill our emptiness with relationships. Number 3, use the law of attraction. Use the law of mind to create the life that you desire. And number 4 is timing. Stay in the heightened, centered state of love and light, saying over and over again, present moment, state of love and light. Present moment, state of love and light. Live in that present moment to eliminate those 4 human diseases. Guilt and shame being diseases of the past, anxiety and worry being diseases of the future. Remember what perfection is? The absence of negative emotion. She said, Bram, continue to remember that. She said, do your best, let God do the rest. Remember that God's your business partner, my CSO, my chief spiritual officer. So I got to remember, what's that bumper sticker? If God's your co-pilot, you better change seats. I got to remember that one. She says, judging people turns your light off. She said, try discernment instead. And she said, if I'm correct but angry, I still lose. She's right. So this beautiful guide, this angel, this coach of mine, she reminded me of a session she did with a number of soldiers that had returned from Iraq in Desert Storm. She calls it the Walmart story. And folks, if y'all aren't triggered when you go into Walmart, then you're not paying attention. I mean, if Walmart can't trigger you, you're a saint. So they were taken by a bus to Walmart. And they were all instructed to go inside for about 10 minutes. But they were told they couldn't talk and they couldn't purchase anything. And that afterwards, to come back out, get in the bus, they couldn't say a word until they got back to the group therapy room. And then she asked them, tell me what you saw. And they all said the same thing. Fat people, ugly people, judgmental people, horrible people. They all said the same thing. All were seen in a negative light. After 6 months of centeredness therapy, that's the stuff she was working on with me, they went back to the same Walmart, given the same instructions. When they returned, they described the people and what they saw as beautiful, loving, kind, enlightened. Why? Goes back to that quote from Ernest Holmes. You always see a reflection of yourself. Love thy neighbor as thyself. But you got to have self-love first. Can't give what you don't have. She talked about not the misconceptions, but the misconceptions of self-love. Number 1, if I love myself, I'll be conceited and arrogant. Not true. Number 2, if I have high self-esteem and high goals and don't reach them, I won't be able to handle the disappointment. Not true. If I have self-love, I'll become selfish. Not true. You become selfless, not selfish. Diversity is to accept people exactly as they are. And diversity must start with accepting ourselves, accepting the others as they are. We can't accept others as they are until we accept our own shadows, our own imperfections. So she said, rejoice when you see your imperfections and be grateful for those who have brought those imperfections to your awareness, for they are our teachers. I read a quote from a lady named Teal Swan a while back. The people who trigger us to feel negative emotion are our messengers, the messengers to heal the unhealed parts of our being. And perhaps whenever we get triggered by someone or something, we could do like Sandy Scott talked about last week. What were those 3 words? Let it be. Let it be. She said when she gets triggered, now she raises her vibration so that she doesn't have to stay stuck in that old emotion. So we all know that God loves us all, atheists, Buddhists, Jews, Christians, most Catholics, no, all Catholics, Episcopalians, Catholic light, as Robin Williams used to say. Remember, we've been commanded to love our neighbors as ourselves. But can we rise to this level? Or do we only love the people that think like we do, act like we do, vote like we do? Love yourself with all your shadows and all your imperfections. Then love your neighbor. Get centered so that when you love yourself, you'll see others beautifully, because we can't give what we don't have. Love yourself first, shadows and all. Namaste.
Your song will be our affirmative.
Okay. Judy just said that my song will be instead of the affirmative prayer. And by luck, it will be, that's what she said. It will be the affirmative prayer. And by luck, it is, this song really is a prayer. And it's a song by Bob Dylan. And I chose it because when I was thinking about Father's Day, this song kept coming back into my mind. Father of night, Father of day, Father who taketh the darkness away, Father who teaches the birds to fly, builder of rainbows up in the sky, Father of loneliness and pain, Father of love and Father of rain. Father of day, Father of night, Father of black, Father of white, Father who builds the mountain so high and shapeth the clouds up in the sky. Father of night, Father of dreams, Father who turneth the rivers and streams. Father of grain, Father of wheat, Father of cold, Father of heat, Father of air and Father of trees, who dwells in our hearts and our memories. Father of minutes, Father of days, Father of whom we most solemnly praise.
Even I can forget that. It's now time for the offering, and Rebecca, if you would bring the offering forward, and if you've forgotten to put something in the basket, you can do it on the way. All right, we keep it in the back, that's just a holdover from COVID. But we've decided that, bringing this basket up here every day, Sundays, it says tithes, it's really offerings. And it's a wonderful opportunity for us to acknowledge the flow in our life, the gifts and the giving. And as we acknowledge that, we're also acknowledging the abundance in our lives. We see this basket, as they say, tamped down and overflowing with love and support in many ways for Wellspring. Each and every one of us cares so much for Wellspring. We know that these offerings pay for the lights, the musicians, the groundskeeping, and we also tithe from all that we receive, because as an organization, as a community of love and of light, we believe in that flow as well. So we give thanks for these gifts, and we know that they are made with love out of our acknowledgement of abundance. And so it is. So it is. Thank you, Rebecca. And now we also want to thank a number of folks who've contributed to the service today. But before we do that, I want us to acknowledge the gift that a mysterious yard worker who was over here on Saturday and was picking up the pine needles and stuffing them in some big black bags. I don't know if it's mysterious, and I don't even know if they want to be anonymous, but we really appreciate that. As you know, our yard person has kind of hasn't been operating with us recently, and we're in the process of getting a new one. But I tell you, it's such a contribution that we have when folks take it upon themselves to volunteer. And we have a number of volunteers that are taking care of our service today. They're working in the back there, but also we've got folks that have prepared the slides and those who have prepared the Sunday script, so we give thanks for them as well. And there's a script here because I'm supposed to follow it, but I have no clue where I am on the script. But oh, okay. And yes. So thank you for joining us in Zoomland today, or from Zoomland. And since you can't join us in the service, you're welcome to stay afterwards on the meeting and visit with a few folks. And the rest of us will shortly thereafter head over to the social hall and have some cherry pie, among other things. So we really also appreciate Sharon and those folks who have been setting up our social hall and cleaning up afterwards and things like that. So we are so blessed in this community. So now please stand if you are able and read with me the benediction, then followed by our congregational song. Spirit in the midst of us is mighty. Joy, peace, and eternal life are our true nature and flow through us into the world. And so it is.